Listen, oh my goodness. I'm telling you something right now. Let's talk about this because this trip to Japan, definitely time zone is totally off, body clock is off. So I'm popping up all different time zones. I'm popping up in all different types of time zones. And so I just decided, listen, I'm just going to do a really quick almost like a podcast kind of thing here, audio. And there's some things I've been thinking about. And this is really about some do's and don'ts. And actually, it's more about don'ts, right? Critical mistakes you should not make while in Japan. And also, I'm going to give you some tips on how you can fix that. So, thank you for being here. This is going to be quick, fast. I just said the same thing, right? But I think it's really interesting. One of the beautiful things about traveling to different parts of the world, you get an opportunity to learn different cultures and how people do things. And so when you are traveling out off your comfort zone or where you are, there's certain cultural things that one should take into consideration. And traveling to Japan, there were some things that I learned. And so there's some do's and there's some don'ts, but there are things I'm going to talk about that you should not do. And for you to be mindful of that, especially when you're traveling out of the country. And I've had an opportunity to travel, but Japan was one of those really cool places. Like I said in some of my previous lives, that it's a vibe. The people are really cool. They mind their business. They're going about the stuff that they do every day, whether it's work or when we were going to the stadium, to the games. We actually went during the World Athletics championships, and being in a stadium of over 55,000, between 55 to 60,000 people, and depending on the night, it could even be more. And to know that we were able to go to the games and also get out in a and I should say an orderly fashion. It was super amazing. So there were some things that I learned while in Japan. I'm going to go right into it. And one of the things that you notice when you first get there, especially the train system, I love the train system getting in and around Japan. We went with another group, but they flew into a different airport and they chose to drive from where they were into more where we were staying, more into Tokyo, okay, and the area where we were staying. And so we opted to take the train. And of course, we learned about, getting the money and all of that, asking questions and so forth and so on. One of the things that you're going to notice about, especially when you are on the train, one of the things that you are going to learn, and you're going to learn that fast. And these things in Japan do not talk loud. I noticed, yes, it's very clean. We're going to get to that. But one of the things that I learned while you are in Japan, if your phone rings, no, you're not going to have a loud conversation. So do not have loud conversation on your phone. Actually, do not use your phone if you don't have to. And that's one of the things I noticed on the train. Nobody was using their phone. They were looking at their phone, but they were not having conversations on the phone. So that's one of the things you're going to learn when you're in Japan. No loud conversations. Keep your phone to yourself. Scroll it, your earpiece, whatever you have to listen, your text. But while you are there, one of the things I noticed, no loud talking. And so they're very respectful, especially on the trains. One of the things I noticed too, because they don't really want to bump into you, we had our suitcases, and traveling into Japan, I had a carry on, but I did check it for the first time. It was a nonstop flight, 14 hours. So I checked my bag, and I had an extra little knapsack with me with extra little clothes just in case, because I don't trust checking my bag, but I did. But while you're on the train, especially if you don't have big, bulky bags, there are ways that you can make reservations on, especially if you're going to have a lot of luggage, but I don't know much to talk about that. So we're just going to talk about traveling on the train. A lot of times you'll see people with their knapsack, they'll have it in the front of them because they don't really want to bump into you. So once again, no loud talking on the train. One of the things I noticed while I was walking around, and I did some of the previous lives you can see in Japan while I'm doing my tour. I just decided to turn on my camera and show some folks, and you're going to notice how clean it is. Oh my goodness. Now, one of the things while you're in Japan, another thing I'm going to tell you, you will not see any garbage on the street. And so, reason being that they frown upon you eating on the streets. Not that I was going to do it because I grew up in the Caribbean in Ireland. So, one of the things they will say, do not walk and eat. So, that's not something that I do. Like, you're on the streets. So, you will not see any garbage. It is extremely clean in Japan. So if you have any garbage or stuff that you might have used or wrappers and stuff like that, even in the stadium, it was extremely clean. You will find ways of how to keep those snacks because Japan has a lot of great snacks. So your little snack containers, you find them, either keep it in your bag, or when you get up. When we were in the stadium in Japan, we decided to get some water and even some other foods, finger foods we're eating. And because they have a system where they're going to separate their plastics and different things like that, so they do recycle, and you will find people that will hang on to their trash, as we would say. So in Japan, definitely no eating on the streets, and you do not drop any trash there. Not to say anybody's going to do that. However, you will find that you do not see a lot of garbage cans. Oh my goodness, how do they do this? No eating on the street, on the streets, and of course no garbage cans, but yet it is rather clean. So there's some of the don'ts you won't do. No loud talking once again on the train. uh, just be very mindful and respectful when you're going on the train. You stand up. This is your line over here. And they also have in the train station, you'll see the arrows. You go this way and you go that way. So that, everything is so specific and so orderly. So those are some of the things that I liked about Japan, just how they have their systems that runs everything along with the train. So that's pretty cool. Another thing that we learned, oh my goodness, guys, this is another thing that I learned while there. And thank you for coming in. Please tap on the screen, give a heart, a thumbs up if you're listening in. I'm going to keep it straight to the point. But I know some of you have expressed that you would like to travel to Japan, and the culture is pretty cool. Some other things, and another thing that I learned, no tipping. No tipping. Because if you tip them, maybe, and I'm thinking you'll insult them in a way, but there's a reason for it, I'm sure. And so I learned no tipping. And so these are some of the things that you can find out about the culture, and why I'm really talking about this. It's important that when you go to someone's house, right, or you go into their country, you really want to abide by their rules. And so you don't push it on them. So that's one of the things we learn, not to tip. And also, when you are giving them the money, the majority will give you like a little plate to place the money on the plate. And then, of course, you would give it to them. So they're little things, nuances, little things that you will learn, and you can adapt to it. And why am I saying all of this now, Sharon? Where are we taking it? See, we teach people how to treat us. And so by going, in Japan is a great reminder of that. Based upon how they want to be treated, they've already set their standards. And I love the fact that that's what they do. They don't waver from it. And they respectfully ask that when you come in, and you can find videos and other information on that. But the way that it's done is that you have no choice but to fall in line with what they are doing and what they are requesting. So those are some of the don'ts, right? And the loud talking on the phone, uh no trash, on on the street. Not to say that we're going to do that, but you will. You definitely will notice it. And they're extremely courteous to each other, very courteous. I remember I was in the ladies room, and I must have been scrolling on my phone, and only to notice that there were two young ladies standing to my left. And so when I looked at them, I was smiling. They wanted to, and then I figured because my knapsack, on my left shoulder was kind of blocking them a little bit. It's only when I looked up I realized it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. And they just smiled. They were so polite that they did not even say, you're expecting somebody to say, excuse me, but they also had their suitcases. So when somebody's standing next to you, you're aware of it, but then again, you're not. I thought maybe they were just there hanging. No, they were just actually standing, and they just needed space to scoot around me. And they gave me the prettiest smile, these two young ladies. I was like, oh my goodness. And so you're learning certain things, that they're very quiet and extremely kind. So that's one of the things, that I learned about that yes, they may have a need, but maybe that's cultural too. I love the fact also that there are those who speak English and they're extremely helpful, but did find out there were some folks who weren't able, they until we started using the Google Translate. Took us a while to figure that out. That they can support you. However, when they're not able, because there's a language barrier, it could be a little frustrating, and they're not being rude, but you will find out and you'll see, those are some of the things. So I just really, wanted to share it. And I thought about it and I said, yes, let me share this a little bit, because I just have so much more that I'm going to share based up on the footage that we were able to capture while we were there. So there's just so much more that's coming up. One of the things that I also was very much aware of, and I didn't even really need, to say, oh, don't do it. But when we went to one of the parks, and I'll have the proper name for it, I'll be able to share it in that video. We went up the steps, and especially if you're going to their temple, and there was a section where they have one of the statues, and I think they asked not to take any photos or anything of the sort. And I didn't actually go up the steps, but the person with me went up and said, oh, there was something about no videos or cameras, so they didn't even take any pictures. So you just really want to respect, just to respect folks based up on their requests, and also culturally. And like I said, before, we've always heard the saying that we teach people how to treat us. And it's very evident in Japan, very evident that they set their standards. The standards are set. And if you don't want to seem like the oddball out, you're going to respect it. And so there was nothing difficult about it, just to say, we're going to do that, especially if you understand, hey, no littering, no loud talking, anything of the sort, no tipping. And I just found it to be, I I I enjoyed it, because I was just allowed to be. I was just allowed to be. I was able to take it in. There were certain things that you could choose to do, and you didn't have to do it. That's one of the things too. When people ask, when you travel, when you travel to another country, do you have to have, are you part of a travel club? Are you part of a team? Do you all do the same thing? No, I like the freedom to be able to do our own thing. However, if I'm part of a group like a retreat, of course, you're definitely going to respect that and you'll know the itinerary and what you're choosing to do before you get there. So that to me is it's understandable. But back to why I've been thinking about the trip to Japan and how we conduct ourselves and our lives. And it is so, once again, so true that we teach people how to treat us. And there's a quote by the late, great Dr. Maya Angelou. And, something that I I'm always very mindful of it. People you may not remember, and I'm just paraphrasing here. People may not remember what you say, but it's how you make them feel. And so that's one of the things I learned there. I learned especially if we're not able to exchange, especially when it comes to communicating. There was the translation, things were lost in the translation. However, one of the things that I loved about it is that when even at the hotel, while they're answering your questions or anything you need to do, there's always a smile. There were people from different parts of the world. We met some of the employees. A lot of the employees were from Nepal, and yes, they spoke English, and they also spoke the language, and they're very up to par on the culture there in Japan. So when you speak, you bow and you don't have to, but you do the bow, they bow, you don't. I didn't even know when to stop the bowing. And it's just I'm sure a form of respect. And so you learn those things. You learn that there's certain little things that or that they do. And also they go the extra mile. One of the things, one of the beautiful things about it is with the customer service in Japan. I feel, especially in the hotels, English speaking, they go the extra mile. Going the extra mile makes a huge difference. Yes, going the extra mile make a huge difference. And so you want to really hone in on those things, the little things. For me, it's the little things that makes a difference. While in Japan, there were the little things that made a difference. Communicating, once again, having the Google Translate, speaking into it, it translate into their language. They'll look at it, they'll speak back to me. And one of the things too, going into the stores, went into the drugstore. Let's say you need something, and I, as a nurse, there are certain things that I could look at and say, oh, and figure it out. And, but I would take it to their pharmacist and say, hey, is, what this is, because some of the things are totally in Japanese. It's written in Japanese. There's some of them do have some English on it, but they're the majority. It's all in their language. And so you are going to learn to adapt to say, hey, instead of getting frustrated, what are some of the things that can help me? What are some of the things that can support me? And you can take it to them and they will definitely try their best to help you. So I found out that patience is a virtue. Get used to some of the things that you're so used to getting it fast, maybe where you come from, but things are done a little bit different. So I'm going to do a more follow up, especially when it came to the food and how we were able to find some food. One day, I guess you guys saw me eating at a Wendy's. Now, when I'm home, I'm not eating at Wendy's. But I think it's also good to do a little research on the food especially if you're vegan, especially if you don't eat pork, or for the people who may be allergic to eggs, because I notice a lot of the meals either will have pork or have eggs, not all of them. But there were some things that we were able to do. And I'm going to tell you, not until like the third day did we have a meal that, okay, this is what we want. And so it wasn't difficult to find the food. You just have to, you have to be you have to feel like, okay, this is something I want to eat. One of the things too, when you're traveling from a different time zone. For us, it was a 14-hour flight and it was a 13-hour difference. So we left today and got really into tomorrow. And you guys were still in yesterday. If you do it in New York time. And so you'll find that your body just gets like really crazy. It's like it doesn't know, should it be sleeping? Should you be eating food? Should you be digesting food? Like, what is happening? And so you find things that are a little bit different in your body and in your mind. I know a lot of people will wear their watch, and when you automatically get there, everything, with your phone, your Apple phone, it will go into their time zone. But for me, because I have people and clients in different time zones, in my world clock in my phone, I would just put in the world clock. So I could just scroll in and I'm like, oh, it's that time in New York. Okay, that's time in Texas. Oh, that's the time in California. And that's in London. And of course, definitely New York. So you will find ways of how you want to adapt. And I would really say, guys, before you go to Japan, do some of your research. I think the train system is absolutely amazing. Like I'm saying, we talk about they have systems and it is a system. And once you get used to it, I absolutely love the train. And I just felt like, hey, let's just go on the train and we can just go for a ride. Just hop on the train. But there were some things that we were able to do and found it to be quite enjoyable. And I figured that, hey, let me tell some folks about some of the things you shouldn't do and how you can fix them. All right. So, once again, if you are going to go on and you're going to have these loud phone conversations, now you're going to be the sore thumb sticking out. So you may have to just text and so forth. And yeah, the food, again, you're not eating on the street. So, we like to grab our coffee and our donut. And sometimes you see people running and eating. It doesn't happen there. It is rather clean. Do you see a lot of garbage cans? No, you don't. But you will find ways to keep your trash with you, and things are done in an orderly fashion. And so that's the same thing I'm saying when it comes to your life. What are some of the things that you put in place? Do you have structures? Do you have systems in place that can make it much easier for you? And even as content creators here on YouTube, it's all about having a system. It's all about continuity, and it's all about being consistent. Even to get to the place of being monetized. And yeah, I'm going to talk about that for those of you who are saying, I want to be monetized and it's not happening fast enough. Once again, there are systems. And YouTube has a system in place, which we say it's the algorithm there. One of the things I noticed while in Japan doing some lives, I started to pick up some Japanese viewers. And not only that, some of the ads when I'm watching other people's videos, because I was still trying to, support even with the time difference. And there were a couple videos that I watched and I didn't get a chance to comment, or some that hey, I'm running up the playlist. I'm listening out and fell asleep, but it's there, right? And so you'll find that, like I said, while in Japan, I did my lives. I didn't even worry about it. That's one of the things too, guys. We're so stuck in doing the same thing when in fact, if you were to do something different, remember there are different people in different parts of the world. And I had folks who came on, and some were Japanese, some were, some weren't. Some were, some weren't. Some were from, I had people from the Dominican Republic while I was there, and people from different parts of Africa and here in the States. And so you'll find too, because sometimes we're so rigid in what we're doing, if you just allow yourself to be. And I just turned on my phone and I did a couple of recordings, and there I was able to pick up some subscribers too from that. So you'll see while you're there and while you're traveling, as long as YouTube is there, there were ads that were playing. And some folks, I have to tell you, there were some Japanese ads that were being played on your channel, which I thought was pretty cool. So, the system wherever you are, and like I said, Japan, lining up to get on the train, and it's done orderly. And it's done in such a way that, hey, we're able to get it done. And so that's the same thing with what we are doing. Are we willing to show up and be consistent and making sure that we're able to get these hours? My goodness, to get these YouTube hours. They're coming though. They're coming nice and slow, but they're coming in. And one of the things too, we talk about, we may have systems in place, but are there certain standards? Are you able to measure what you're doing? And YouTube obviously does that, and they make certain that every watch time that you're getting, that it's panning out. It's just a part of life. And so it's the same thing with what we're doing here. And what I decided to share with you, that, yeah, when you go into another country, be willing to be patient, be willing to go with the flow, and of course, being respectful of their culture and what their wishes are. And like I said, the tipping was a big thing. We went to an amazing Nepali restaurant, and it was just so good. They didn't serve any pork or anything like that, and nothing against people who like bacon and stuff like that. I'm not here. I'm just saying what was the preference, and the service was so good. You're tempted to, oh, do you take tip? And they were like, oh, no, 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 no. They were like, no, 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 no. They were just like, oh my God. So even though they were from a different country and culture, they were very much a part of the Japanese culture. And that's what I really loved about it. And they were very kind. There were some things, oh, that's on us, there was some tea I wanted, and I didn't know their tea had milk and stuff in it, but it was good. So, did you want tea before dinner, after dinner? I was like, no, I needed something warm right now. But then there were certain things that we were learning that, you could order. Some places were a little bit more, they're able to say, yeah, we can do this, and some places were like, no, this is how the food comes. And so you just be respectful of, that's how things are done. So that's some of the questions I'd like to ask some folks. What are some of the things that you learned while traveling to different countries? Is there a particular country that you traveled, and their customs and their culture was very specific, and you just chose to honor that? Another thing too, that we noticed, that there were places and spaces that you would go in, and it requests that you take your shoes off. Oh yeah. Yeah. There's something else that I'll share at another time, and hopefully we'll have the footage up for you guys to see. But there were some places that request that when you come in, no shoes. And so, of course, you are going to respect it. Either going to go in or you are not. My goodness. So, yeah, absolutely enjoyed. And so that I'm going to tell you this, there are people from all over the world. They just show up, and sometimes they just want to be seen. They want to be heard, and they just want to show up in places where they feel that because of who they think they are, or maybe they're not getting enough publicity, they just decide to say, hey, I'm going to come into your space and I am going to just show myself off. And then they're not welcome because it's not the space for you, right? But guys, I want to thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you so much for those of you on the replay. If you've gotten this far, you got to drop your girl a, let's do a red heart. Oh, yeah, a red heart, right? Japan. I love that. So, thank you for listening in. I wanted to just pop in. I'm still on my vibe from being in Japan, and I really appreciate those of you who've hung with me thus far. And until next time, everybody, let me know your thoughts. What do you think about the don'ts? And then the tips that I was able to give you, did you find them to be helpful? And are you planning on going to Japan? And if so, when? Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys for being here. Y'all been so kind. I'm getting ready to leave, but you all coming in. Definitely feel free to give a thumbs up. You can go ahead, give a thumbs up. You can tap the screen, and we'll talk more. Take care. Bye.